Some shots back here on Bill's car again. Haven't been able to do much last couple of weeks. Apologize, but between equipment malfunctions, 3 presses broke down now and our laser. And I just had surgery last week, so I'm a little raspy. I had surgery on my throat. I got the stone guards properly fit and put on both sides. Those fit pretty well. We are assembling the seats to get those put in. Upholstery's done. Things are tied off. He had so much broken seat adjusters that we're having to put new ones on. So we're gonna tackle that here and get that assembled, and then we'll get some shots. We'll be putting insulation in on the floors and then carpeting and things like that. So we are plugging away with those things. So we'll get, after a few hours here assembling these, we'll get some more shots. Here are the seats with new adjusters. Polished up things as much as we could, being as old as they are. Polished up, painted the knob. The adjusters are new. So these are, other than popping these little rubber plugs in here to cover the bolt holes and give another spot for them to sit. If we're satisfied with everything fitting, which it appears we are, then the seats are assembled. So I'll get some still shots of them for him, and then we'll get going on the carpet in the car. Back on Bill's car, motors, other than manifolds and so on, motors back together. We had to wait forever for a tack gear to come in. It was this one, wasn't it? That I had to modify the keyway, and yeah. So they shipped them with a groove cut in, and then they hardened the gear to where you can't file it out or carve it out. So we had to modify a keyway to make the gear work, which took forever, but we do have it done. Electronic distributor, everything's back together and mounted, and tomorrow the plan is to lift this up, set it in the car, and see if we can put the manifold up to here, find out, because they didn't alter the frame, what we have to do to the exhaust manifold to alter it to fit the car. And then, because the manifold needs repair, we can cut and weld and reshape that and still make the exhaust fit. So we got to play with that tomorrow. Been doing other stuff, assemble the seats. I think I already got pictures of that. We want to get these other mechanical things done first, get that motor in there, make sure everything fits, exhaust run. Then we're going to put carpeting in, door panels on, interior in, that kind of thing. Okay, on Bill's car, got the motor setting in place. They got the manifold just sitting there because the frame was altered. We wanted to make sure that we didn't have to modify anything. And there's all kinds of room. So it's a good thing we didn't mess with the frame rail, because we didn't need to.
I wasn't going unless I had to.
Right. So we still have to cut and fix and repair this, but that's not going to give us any issues. So motor does fit, sitting on the mounts. We've got to bolt it down to the motor mounts yet, but everything's setting in place. And we'll continue on and start assembling everything else. Okay, this is Bill's exhaust header. You remember seeing that it had this almost completely rotted off. There's holes most of the way around it. Where there isn't holes, it's really thin, and that whole piece is going to break off. There's nothing really to weld to properly here. It's thin. It's been patched. It's been patched up before with a ring wrapped around it and welded, so it's had problems for a period of time. It's really thick here, so they cut it off. Company in Europe makes a repair piece, so they cut this off about where the repair piece comes to, so they didn't have to trim that. So they were into really good steel. Completely gone around. It's been sandblasted. It's been painted with a high temperature paint, and so it'll be given to Rob here, and he can get it put on. He's finishing some other little things here. Engine's in, and as I mentioned before, looks like he has bolts now for the motor mounts.
Yeah.
He's getting ready to mount the generator, putting a kit in it that properly spaces and mounts the generator where it belongs. And then he'll get the intake and exhaust manifold put together and on here with the carburetors and hang the exhaust system. Then we'll pop that transmission clutch assembly back together, get the drive shaft in, and get her drive shaft in already.
Yeah, it's staying up.
Okay, so we're coming along well.
Intake's mostly together.
All right, on Bill's car, we filmed this earlier. It's going to be a little bit hard to see up in here right now. But they added this brace right up in here that goes back. No reason, no clue why they added that great big brace. They wanted to reinforce the area or whatever, but I guess they didn't realize the exhaust system has to hang here and go up inside. So now the exhaust is laying against the brace. If we bolt this up, it's jammed against the brace. This is barely in. The exhaust is high here. The exhaust has to hang down. I'm touching the brace now. You can see there's almost 2 inches here. So if he lowers his side, drop your side about an inch. If he lowers his side an inch, we can actually bring this up within an inch. So we actually have to put an inch extension plate here, or an inch and a quarter, and an inch over here, allowing the exhaust to drop just a little bit. It won't be crazy, but it'll be lower than it's supposed to be. It should be about right there, and now it's hitting that cross member, and it'll end up having to be, it'll come out a little straighter, but we're gonna have to drop the whole back of the exhaust system and build an adapter here of some sort to come down, because we cannot reach that hole, period. And that brace is the reason. We can't cut it out now. Everything's welded in. It's all painted. So we're gonna adapt like we've done 1 or 2 times before. But he's going with a stainless exhaust. Did he already have that?
Yeah.
Good. That'll last for ever and ever, probably. All right. So we wanted to get a shot of that that we just ran into.
Add several washers.
One more thing. I already filmed how the manifold's going to set nice and all that. Okay. Being that this is a sedan engine and a sedan head in the 190, these studs were wrong. The collar on them, you see how long that collar is? Would have had to double or triple these washers in order to bolt the manifolds back on, because you can see the collar goes all the way to my thumbnail here. So we had to pull all the studs out of the head, pull studs out of another head, and switch them over, and we broke one off in the head, so he had to then drill and piddly monkey with that and get that out. So that part is done. The 190 SL studs are in here, so everything's mounted together. And what were you saying?
The studs were so long that you wouldn't be able to put the nut on it.
Oh yeah, the studs stuck out. You'd have to slide it back, put the nut on, and then slowly go, and then you have to use an open end wrench to try and tighten it.
Well, you can't. You'd have to use a box end wrench. And you have to grind the box end wrench really thin, because otherwise it wouldn't fit in there.
So anyway, it was a mess. So these are pulled out. He took studs out of another cylinder head where the shoulder here is much shorter. The non-threaded shoulder is much shorter, so he's got that swapped over. So, how'd you swing that?
Putting that exhaust on.
Okay, now you also told me that
Yeah. Somebody put this in there. I don't know who put it in. Somebody put a new.
oh we didn't,
No, it wasn't.
but it's what, real sloppy?
If you, see it moving in there?
So it's got like oh shoot, bearings must be out of it. I bet they lost bearings and put it back together without them.
Moves both directions.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
So okay, so you need a new universal joint,
Yep.
and it is thankfully the large one, which we can get reasonably well. Well, actually, we have the other ones now.
Well, we do.
So, but is this a large one? I think it is.
I don't know. Find out once we
Let me
get
just take this with me, and
that too.
I'll match it up. Trying to put the get the studs out.
No, I'm trying to get that intake together.
Oh,
Get that intake on there.
so we need a piece of steel to extend your rear bracket. What do you want? Inch and a quarter?
Probably.
How about I attempt to make you a plate that has a slotted hole so you can adjust it to your liking? Would you like that? Maybe a 1/2 inch of slot? Kind of like this, but flat.
That's fine.
And it's got to be pretty.
Gotta be thick. Like
Got to be
that.
pretty thick though. I've got some steel out there right now that I can trim down and make you this same type of thickness. Make you whatever plate you want.
Straight,
Do you need one for each side?
straight plate with a bolt
Yes.
hole in it.
Just a straight
Yeah.
bolt hole on one end and slotted.
Slide on the other.
Okay.
That way you can make
Okay.
it straight.
That way you can
That
kind of
way
straighten it up
kinda
because you don't
straighten
know.
it as best we can.
Yeah. All right. I'll do that.
Cause you want what, about a